'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. I bet you know that story, huh? But do you know the story behind the story? Come on, let's take a trip. It's funny how people think that history is boring. But do we even know what's going on inside these pages? It's still being written, and it's packed with wild stories and unexpected twists.
I'm here to tell you the stories behind the history. It's complicated, messy, and oftentimes bizarre and strange.
You are about to learn that this is not your average history lesson. I'm Christine Darrow, but you can call me "Twas the Night Before Christmas" is often regarded as a holiday classic depicting a magical visit from Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. It was written by American poet and scholar Dr. Clement Clarke Moore, who took inspiration from one particular location in northern New York. Welcome to Constable Hall. This is the home that inspired "Twas the Night Before Christmas" and the way the world celebrates the holidays. While walking through this majestic mansion, it isn't hard to let your imagination run wild. Sitting on 22 acres of land in Lewis County, New York, the mansion was constructed on a portion of the 3.6 million acres of land from Macomb's purchase and was completed in 1819. The hall was built by William Constable Jr. William died from complications due to injuries he had sustained during construction, leaving Mary Eliza McVicker Constable a widow with 5 children.
She could have probably said to her father, look, I'm a widow now with 5 young children. I'm going to move back to New York. But she didn't. She stayed here. I like to think it's because she knew how much this house meant to her husband. So she decided to stay here and raise her children. But during that time, Clement Moore, he knew that she was going to need support. So he came up here for those next couple of years over Christmas to give comfort to her and the family.
But it was Constable Hall that inspired the story.
For instance, about he tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. That never made sense to me as a child because it should be second, right? With a regular window, it should be sash and then shutters. But not in this house. In this house, there's 32 sets of interior shutters. Want to know how I know? I get to open and close them all the time.
One could easily picture the 5 constable children hanging their stockings by the chimney with care. During his visits to the hall, Moore was often fond of the constable's Dutch caretaker, Peter, who was plump and jolly.
That description has inspired so many artists and painters and even cartoonists over the world. Artists everywhere have used their own flair on Santa Claus. So even though you picture Santa in a big red suit with a fluffy white beard, there's artwork that's varied from all different countries. All different countries put their own spin on Santa, but it is still the Santa that he described.
The poem would float around the Constable family until it was sent to a local newspaper in Troy, where it would go on to receive tons of recognition. But while it garnered positive attention, the poem's publication left Dr. Moore unhappy.
He didn't feel like he was putting his best foot forward. He didn't consider that a serious piece of literature. But right away, he discovered that people loved the poem. So I think he realized that he had written something bigger than himself. It did take him by surprise to what ended up being the most widely read piece of literature in the world. If you know the Constable family is still here, and family means a lot to them, and that's really a theme throughout the ages of Constable Hall and the Constable family.
Even after 200 years, the theme lives on through the 7 generations of constables.
My father lived here for approximately 5 years. They moved here early 1920s. Very tragically, his father was killed in an accident. My father was 10 years old. It was naturally a devastating experience for the family. Ownership of the hall was passed to my father when he was approximately 18 years old. And he continued to visit and take care of Constable Hall to the best of his ability. After returning from World War II, he had to make the decision that the upkeep of the hall was more than he could bear.
Mary's father, John, would sell the mansion in 1947, making his generation the last to live in the hall. As a gift to the Constable Hall Association, Mr. and Mrs. Lewis Cornwall purchased and fully restored the home to be loved and cherished forever, and has since been placed on the National Register of Historic Places.
The most reason is that it's special, that Constable Hall is special to me, is the fact that it remained in the family and the family took care of it for approximately 130 years until it was passed to the Constable Hall Association. I love to come here. I come here all times of the day. It's so calming. We're tucked away, and it's just amazing that this house remains here for over 200 years. What the true connection was, and how important it was, and how well known the poem was worldwide. It's amazing. And to just enjoy the connection, and it's sweet.
This house was part of the inspiration to write the poem, because there were so many parts of this house that matched the poem, and the feel, and the fact that the relationship between he and Mary Eliza, I mean, they were cousins and they grew up together in New York City, but they were also fast friends. The fact that he came up here for a few years after her husband died to comfort her children. I mean, you picture that kind of relationship. It's lovely. And to go along with this beautiful poem, "'Twas a Night Before Christmas," I mean, you could just picture him in this room, thinking about that and knowing that he was here to comfort his cousin and children after this devastating loss, but still being inspired by this beautiful house and the beautiful grounds. And also, I think the love of family and what that meant to him, obviously, because back then was not an easy trek from either, if he was coming from New York City or from Troy, to come up here. I mean, back then it wasn't a quick weekend trip. They literally would be here for weeks because it took a long time to get here. We believe Clement Moore spent a few Christmases here with Mary Eliza and the children, and also we believe that he visited the family before William died as well, which is why we think when William died, he immediately came here to comfort his cousin and their children.
For over 2 centuries, the Constable family has weathered both joy and sorrow, their legacy etched into every corner of these walls. And as the years pass, one begins to wonder, is it only memory that lingers here, or is the Christmas spirit itself still keeping watch?
I don't perceive that Constable Hall has any legend or ghost. I just remember one time we did have some paranormal people, and afterwards I was talking with one of the speakers, and I asked her, "Did you feel anything?" She said, "I sat on the second step of the stairs," and she said, "I felt someone sitting next to me." And I said, "Well, that was my father." So I feel that my father's presence is here quite often. When something goes wrong, we think, "Oh my goodness, how are we going to get through this?" And somehow we persevere. And so we're doing very well. We're doing better. We're doing better and better every year.
We're leaving the foothills of the Adirondacks for one of its highest peaks, Whiteface Mountain, and the town of Wilmington to discover the story behind the story. Welcome to Santa's workshop, where Santa spends his summer vacation. It all began with a baby bear getting lost in the Adirondack Mountains and stumbling into Santa's workshop.
The concept of the park came about in about 1937 when Julian Rice was traveling from New York City with his little daughter, Patty, to come to the Adirondacks where he owned a home. And on the way, they were driving through all of the little towns because the thruway wasn't built yet. And as they went by all of these beautiful decorated homes with the lights and the decorations, it just was so beautiful. And he began to tell his little daughter, Patty, about Baby Bear, who was a character in the children's stories that he made up for his children. And he was telling about how Baby Bear got lost in the Adirondack woods one night. And as he journeyed through, he came out into a little clearing and he saw this little village. And it was actually Santa Claus's village. And there were elves and animals and Santa Claus here. And it was his Adirondack home. And little Patty was enthralled with this story. And she asked him, "Can we go there?" And he said, "Well, I'm sorry, there are no roads in. It's in the woods." And then she said, "Well, you have a plane. Can we fly there?" And he said, "Well, there's no place to fly the plane into, to land the plane." So, um, so as she drifted up to sleep, he began to think about this. And it was a seed that was planted. He thought it would be a really great idea to create a magical place for children where they could come and meet Santa Claus and see his home and his little village. And that was the conception of the idea. Julian Rice then went to an artist who lived in Upper J named Arto Monaco. And Arto had been a cartoonist, had been working in the movies, and had also been involved in the military, building a Swiss-style village, a Tyrolean-style village for the army, for the army to train as the soldiers were to go to Germany. And as a result of that, he already had a conception in his mind of what a little woodland village would look like. And so within a matter of days, he had beautiful drawings and watercolored all drawn up for Mr. Rice, who came back to see him and was so impressed with his drawings that he took them to his father in New York City, who was a wealthy textile merchant, and his father agreed to put up the money to Santa's workshop.
I met Arto as a kid. My mother used to be one of the waitresses at his restaurant at Land of Make Believe. And the elementary school kids used to take all of their school trips at the end of the year to the Land of Make Believe. So we would just see him there all the time, always involved. I just always knew him. As I got older, I worked at the post office in Upper J, and Ardo would come in for his mail. We would just have a little chat. He really got involved in his work. The kids at the Land of Make Believe, that's where I knew him from mostly. And he was the kind of guy that got right involved in it. He would build the toys, build the village, create everything, but he was right in the middle of the park as one of the kids themselves, just guiding them through all the things there were to do. And I always remember him, just wearing his hat and his bandana around his neck and his plaid shirts and cowboy boots, and he was just quite a guy. I do know that he loved the children, he loved his community, he loved the people, he loved his art and creativity, and he put them all together, and he created the Land of Make Believe, which was a magical place for both parents and children. It was a safe place that you could, once you got through the gate, let the kids run. Every parent was watching every child. It was just a fun, safe place for everyone to be, for families to be. It was something that Ardo created and took a lot of pride and joy and care in creating.
Now that I had a better understanding of the park's history, I wanted to meet with the general manager for a tour of Santa's workshop and experience the magic for myself.
Hey, welcome.
Hi there.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas. I'm the general manager here at Santa's Workshop, and this is our toy store. So let me show you inside.
Okay, great.
So this is where the magic happens, where we show kids how the elves make toys, and they get to interact with one of the first robot, animatronic, whatever you want to call it, in the country. So all they do is they pull down on the lever and different things operate. And this is one of the first in all of America that had something like this.
This magical recipe of a toy shop, animatronics, a child's imagination, and Santa was the perfect potion to enchant none other than Walt Disney.
So tell me, when did Arto Monaco come up with this idea of animatronics?
You know, he was a toy maker first and foremost. So he had his own company where he made toys. I think it was more just a kind of a evolution of what he was currently doing, and he had a very, very vivid imagination. So I think it just came from that. He, had some mechanical inclinations as well too. So he put two and two together, and here we have it today. And he also had a lot to do with It's a Small World at Disneyland. So this was kind of the start of the idea, Small World, of where he really blossomed.
So how did Walt Disney utilize Arto Monaco's design?
I think it was because his very unique artistic style, because he had, the characters had like rather sharp noses and chins. There's a very distinct style. But for entertainment purposes in amusement parks and theme parks, it was one of those things that kind of made kids like especially happy, because it was something that was a little bit more imaginative than something, a real life kind of comic. So that's where, he utilized Arto's specific style to make, a lot of things that have been Disney and other things as well too.
Being in Santa's workshop got me thinking about my own artistic potential. So, like an elf, I tried my hand at making some toys.
Okay.
All right, since today we're going to make you a junior elf, we're going to make a truck today. So here is your truck, and you have your wheels. So what you'll do is put your spoke in the wheels and hammer it into the holes. Gently and carefully, please.
Yeah, there you go.
High fives.
Woo! As we toured Santa's workshop at the North Pole, we made a stop at the post office, which the U.S. Postal Service awarded with Rural Postal Station status. Did you know that when you write a letter to the North Pole that it comes here? Then it was time to visit the reindeer. Next, I wanted to go on some rides and check out the store where everyone gets a magic wand. There's even a blacksmith shop, a chapel, and don't forget Santa's house. And then there's my favorite, the candy shop. When the park first opened in 1949, over 200 people visited. However, Labor Day weekend of 1951 saw over 14,000 visitors in a single day. But by the 1970s, it had become evident that the times were changing.
The heyday of Santa's workshop was between the 1950s and the 1970s. Thousands and thousands and thousands of families came, and they continued to come, so that in this day and age, 3 generations of people will come here to visit. The children who came, there will be grandparents will bring their children who now have children. And so we often see families of 3 generations visiting the park today.
The ambitious Operation Toy Lift program was a symbol of Santa's workshop in the 1950s, flying toys to orphanages across the continent. Its quiet conclusion, however, marked a turning point, prompted by the societal shift to foster care and the dawn of a new, more aggressive competitor, the modern theme park. As daredevil rides and corporate parks began to capture the imagination of a new generation, Santa's workshop was forced to pivot. It could no longer compete on scale or novelty, so it chose to compete on memory. It clung to its unique handcrafted charm and the potent nostalgia for simpler times, a strategy that has allowed it to outlive nearly all of its roadside contemporaries.
I believe in Santa Claus. I believe in the magic of Christmas. And I believe there's still hope for a property like this, because this really is the summer home of Santa Claus and the baby Jesus. And I don't know of a small town anywhere in the world that can boast such a thing. So it hurts me. Kind of hurts me when I see Santa's workshop, which was the pillar of the economic well-being of this community, fade away a little bit, and it's coming back. And the owner, Doug Waterbury, who's a friend, still believes he's hanging in there, and I think it's going to be okay. But there's so few places on the planet that has the magic that this park has. And I liken it to a scene in Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy and her pals enter the land of Oz, and the movie goes from black and white to Technicolor. And I think that's what happens to guests.
I think technology led to the decline of the park. In the 1970s, theme parks began to crop up all over the nation that offered roller coasters and upside down whoopsie-doo rides and all kinds of, with all kinds of bells and whistles. And this place they wanted to keep Santa's workshop as nostalgic as they could. And so as time went on, people began to attend these other theme parks that had more pizzazz than Santa's workshop. However, the people that came here as children still embraced the nostalgia of the place. It has become a place that never changes, in a sense. original buildings are all here. The colors are all here. The reindeer are still here. And it brings people back a step in time. It's a very sentimental place for people that visited here as children.
Well, I use the word magic a lot, and magic is is an emotion that we've lost over the years, and magic survives this. This is real magic. All you have to do is look around and see the structures here, and the cabins, and I mean, come on. In the eyes of a 5-year-old, and again, this isn't for a 50-year-old who doesn't believe anymore, but a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, this is the real deal. And I keep using the word magic because this is a property that is filled with magic. And the magic of Christmas, and we all went through that wonderful period in our lives where the build-up to Christmas Day was a memory that you had forever. And parents now return here, and it really hasn't changed that much. And that's good, because it doesn't need to change. This is the way it was 70 years ago, 75 years ago, whatever it was. And it's still a wonderful experience for them, especially when they're bringing their grandchildren or their children here, because they're reliving it too.
So, Steve, I think it's so cool that both Clement Clarke Moore and Julian Rice inspired so much just by the stories that they told their children.
It's amazing how a story to their children have evolved into this, and in a lot of ways, the modern day theme park and amusement park across the country. It's amazing. It just started right here.
Yeah, I mean, Walt Disney was inspired so much by what you all had going on here that's really how he made up his parks.
Yeah, and one of the other really instrumental parks in his thinking was Frontierland. That was also here, the land of make-believe, which was literally like 10 miles from here. And it's a combination of these 3 parks that were up in northern New York in the middle of the Adirondacks that kind of started a whole movement.
So I guess we really can't underestimate the power of fathers just really trying to get their kids to go to bed.
Absolutely. I know that for a fact.
Until next time, I'm your host, Christine Darrow, but you can call me Christine the History Queen.